right, this is SFBarkast. I am Jeff Cleary.
I am Andrew Louder.
And Andrew, where are we today?
We're at Pittsburghs.
Pittsburghs.
Yeah, which is...
Not Pittsburgh, the city.
Yeah, we're not in Pittsburgh.
Not Pittsburgh, the city in Pennsylvania. Not Pittsburgh, the city in California. But Pittsburgh's pub in the outer sunset.
This is like the outer sunset.
This is about, you can't get much outer.
Yeah, you walk right into the ocean from here. Like,
Exactly.
That's probably like how a lot of people settle their tabs here. Is they're just like, I'll be right back, and just walk into the ocean.
Just walking into
At least, judging by the clientele anyway, that's how most of the people end their night.
So people pay their tabs by committing suicide. Great.
Right. It's kind of a piss poor business model, but like it does open up a lot of new apartments.
You can either give me $20 or you can walk into the ocean.
Ooh, can I think about it?
And so this place is on Judah at 46th.
46th and Judah. Yeah.
Really far. I mean, it only goes 47th, and then I forget the street that's after 47th. It's just like a small. It's not the Great Highway, but it's like the sort of
mediocre highway.
You know what, the Great Highway?
No.
It's all right.
Yeah, that's what I think.
You know, it's
a lot of hype.
It's really the so-so highway.
Like, ooh, highway. You think you're so great.
Nah.
But yeah, so I mean, like we're out and like I was kind of looking over where we've gone up until now, and like it seems like the outer sunsets have been a little underrepresented, so we apologize for that. But
which is weird for me because this is where I cut my teeth in San Francisco. The first place I ever lived was a block away from here. I lived at 46th and Irving with a couple of high school friends.
Right. That's great. I mean, like, I think it's a good place to do that, like, because it's really different than a lot of the rest of the city. Like, and
it totally
people
is.
that like move straight to like the Tenderloin or something like that. They never really get to experience what the outer sunset is like.
It's true, and I remember when I first moved to San Francisco, like we were looking for apartments. I was living with a high school friend named Amy Andresco and some other person I can't remember right now.
Yeah.
But
you go on and kill somebody or go to prison or something?
No, didn't he like cut the Canadian Parliament yesterday?
Yeah, I think so.
By the way, the guy who stormed the Canadian Parliament, worst jihadist ever. He had like no confidence whatsoever. He's like, I'll show those stuffy Canadians to disrespect Islam.
And then look out, Winnipeg, because you're next.
Also, like, talk about aiming low. Like, what are the chances he's going to get past the one security guard?
Like, the one unarmed security guard that's standing there. It's like, take that.
So when I first moved to San Francisco, we were looking for a place to live, and I was amazed that there were plenty of places out by the ocean that were available for rent. And I was like, wait a minute, we have like oceanfront options?
Yeah,
Let's
really.
definitely do that. And then you realize it's the outer sunset. And then you realize why nobody wants to live out here.
I don't know. I think there's some. It's definitely much quieter than the rest of the city. In
Somewhat.
fact, eerily so in some cases. Well, I mean, like the mornings where like it's just like all fog and everything like that. Like it's kind of cool out here because it's like almost otherworldly. It's like being on the moon.
Here's the great thing. That I used to say it was like living on the moon when you tried to get people to come see you, because like nobody wanted to come out here. Like San Francisco. If you live in San Francisco, you live in the Mission, you live in like Nob Hill or wherever. There's so many things around there that why would you ever come out here? Why would you take the Judah all the way out here?
Well, I was just going to say, too, like, that's the crazy thing, too. It's not like you have to take, like, 5 different trains to get here. Like, there's one train that goes, like, all the way out. But I guess, it does take, like, 4 or 5 hours. But,
It's just a really way out of the way. Right. So one of the things you're saying is very quiet out here in the outer sunset.
Yeah.
Somewhat.
Okay.
A little bit,
Educate
But there's
what was loud about it?
What's loud is the teenage speed freaks that hang out at the 7-Eleven.
Oh, okay.
And we get to know them a little bit when I was living out here. Right. The good thing about living out here is, like, from where my bedroom was, I could hear the waves crashing on the beach, which is really smooth. Like, it's so nice and soothing, and you just, like slip away.
Real-life yacht rock playing out your window.
Right, exactly. And then you realize that there's some, like, teenage speed freak who's been following you for 4 blocks. Or also, like, so Irving is the second street south of Golden Gate Park.
Right.
And on the other side of Golden Gate Park is a Safeway. So when you live over on Irving Street, you have to walk through the park, go to the supermarket, and then walk back through the park. And we soon realized that the trails that we were walking through to get to the supermarket are like gay cruising trails. So
It's a great place to bring a bag full of groceries. Everyone just assumes that you're bringing them refreshments. Or
yeah, exactly. Oh, hey, I know you're out of breath because I heard you behind that bush.
Exactly.
We were, my roommate John and I would walk through there, and he's like, hey, you ever notice, like, we didn't know what was going on. We just thought, we were like, oh, wait, what are these guys doing? It's like, you ever notice sometimes we walk around the corner, and then, like, 4 guys stand up like you just walked into their living room, and they keep looking at you? I was like, yeah, that's weird.
Right. Like, I just assumed they really liked orange juice and
that's
frozen
weird.
dinners.
I think we're out of lettuce. Not to change the subject.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you think everyone in this city's doing that to you?
Also, one other great story about when we first moved here, I remember John and I like waiting for the Judah, and there would be drug dealers coming around, right? And they would say, smoke, sense, coke, late night. And we were like, oh, no, thank you. But then we'd get back home, we'd be like, hey, what is late night?
Right.
And he's like, I don't know, but I want to try it. It comes really well advertised.
Yeah, right.
And then we find out that it's just a late night transfer to get on the mini train.
Well, that's no fun. You buy it from them, and then you're like, okay, now what do I do with this?
So do
I get on a train?
Do I
yeah,
smoke
then
it? Do I snort it?
Was it like butt stuff? No, you just get on the train.
You need to go to Golden Gate Park towards the end.
Do I have to lube it first or anything?
So this bar, it's called Pittsburghs, and I was going to say I don't know if it is a Steeler bar, but now I'm looking around and I see a terrible towel. I see a sign that says reserved for Pittsburgh fans only. And it seems like a weird, like Pittsburgh would be a weird.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess
it's not
if
reminiscent of Pittsburgh in any way.
If you own the bar, it can be whatever you want. Like we talked about before about how, it always seems weird to me that like one bar will get designated this is a Pittsburgh bar, but if it's your bar and you're a Pittsburgh fan, like have at it, right?
Well, and it's while there are like a couple of Pittsburgh things around, like a towel and a Pirates mirror or whatever, like it's hardly festooned like top to bottom with Pittsburgh stuff. Like
no, it's not.
If you didn't know it was called Pittsburgh's, like you wouldn't assume it was necessarily.
And you know what? The outer sunset, the sunset itself, I feel is like San Francisco is so filled with transplants, but that sunset is like the real pure San Franciscans, people who are like born and raised here, big Niner fans. So I'm sure they have a big Niner crew here watching the games as well. But I guess if you're into watching the Steelers lose, you can come down here as well.
Like it seems like if the if the Pirates had made it further into the playoffs and had to play the Giants or something like that, my guess is that there wouldn't be majority of Pittsburgh fans here.
No, absolutely not.
Even though, like somebody said that, on Yelp or something that during Steelers games they bring out like Youngling beer and
really?
stuff like that. But apart from that, it's definitely not the most Pittsburgh. I mean, even Giordano's near where you live seems more of a Pittsburgh bar than this.
Yeah, where I live in the Mission, there's going to be more transplants.
Yeah.
I mean, anytime you go to the Kilowatt, there's always more fans of every other team than Niners.
Right. Well, and when did this place become Pittsburgh's? Because it wasn't Pittsburgh's when you lived here, right?
Right. No, it was called The Reef.
Yeah.
And it was sketchy. Yeah.
Well,
Sketchy's
I wouldn't
nice.
say that that it's really fancy or anything. I mean, it's still pretty dingy.
It's definitely an improvement over The Reef. The Reef was a goddamn fucking abortion of a bar.
They at least cleaned up the blood off of the walls.
Although I used to love coming down here. I used to love coming down to The Reef and getting a last drink before going home. And it was really, you would meet some characters in here. This is a place where I went with these 2 friends of mine, and we met this doctor of psychiatry, Dr. Jim. And he really took a shine to these 2 girls I was with, and Susie and Marsha Crane.
Right.
And he was just
friends of the show.
friends of the show, and he was like totally trying to charm them, and we were like, oh, we just had a great time. We're just like buying drinks back and forth. Then we called it a night, and then I don't know, maybe a month later, I think Marcia and I came down here, and we're like, hey, wait, look at that guy at the end of the bar. It's like the guy's like wearing a dress and makeup, and we're like, holy shit, it's Dr. Jim.
Oh.
He's wearing a dress,
Right.
he's wearing makeup, and he's sitting at the bar alone, and we're like, hey, Doc. And he's like so happy to see us. He's just like, oh my God, you guys are so great. Like, and I was like, hey, what's up? And he's like, this is not, he's like, this is my mother's dress, and today's the day that she died, so I wear it. And I was like,
so nothing then.
not weird at all.
Okay, well.
So
you suppose, like, I mean, like, if he's an actual doctor of psychiatry and people come to him with their issues, like, he must just be like, boy, that's boring. Like what you're doing is like not only normal, but like actually sort of like subnormal and kind of tedious. It's like, oh, you just want to like kill yourself and you're depressed. Like, why don't you call me when you show up at a wedding dress? Like,
and doesn't it make it even weirder that he is like a doctor of psychology?
A little bit, yeah.
I mean, I'm sure in his mind you could be like, look, I know all about like costume usage in different cultures, and I know what I'm doing here. But like, no, really, this is some weird shit.
Right. Well, speaking of which, and you know, this is a bit of a cross into like sort of a real talk segment or whatever, but like
real talk.
Like the last like 3 or 4 weeks, like I've been sort of in the throes of scaling down off of psych meds myself, and you know, it was nothing like terribly serious that like got me on them in the first place. It was just sort of like random panic attacks and stuff like that. So you know, it wasn't taking them to battle any huge demons or anything like that. But man, like getting off of them has been like a real fucking chore.
Dude, ask Barry Sobel about that.
Like that. Well, yeah, I think, you know, I think I will ask Barry probably when I'm done asking everybody else. I'll be like, okay, I've had all the good advice I need. Now I need some bad advice.
Supposedly, one of the most addictive drugs that you can take is one of the mildest drugs, and it's Xanax.
I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah.
Like, you're only supposed to take it as needed.
Right.
You're not supposed to take it for more than 7 weeks.
Well, that's what I was. I mean, I was given Lexapro, and then like as sort of a emergency, like you know, panic attack preventer or whatever like that is some Xanax. And so it's just like, you know, it's like, oh, take this every day, and then take this whenever you need it. And like I would tell anybody that's thinking of getting off of anything like that, definitely like do it under close doctor supervision, and you know, read about it first. I sort of made the mistake of, you know, assuming that I you know, would know what I was doing, and not really reading anything about it ahead of time. And so yeah, it was just definitely like a kind of a shitty experience. But at the same time, like you know, I sort of learned that like you know, I was probably on more of it than I should have been for longer than I should have been. You know, so it's like you know, don't automatically trust your doctor either, especially if he's kind of a quack to begin with.
Yeah, if you're going to go to a doctor, go to a professional,
right?
Not the people that Andrew goes to.
Yeah, exactly. Like avoid psychiatrists that are in a van.
Here's the problem with these antipsychotics or anti-anxiety
mood stabilizers or any of that shit,
is that they work like a fucking charm.
Yeah.
Right? Like Xanax always works. I was taking Ativan.
Yeah, and that's sort of very similar to Xanax.
And
right?
you know what? It works like a charm, but like I feel like in the long run, I stopped taking Ativan, and like I feel so much better. I mean, you just got to like learn to fight through.
Right,
where
exactly.
You're like, okay, I'm not gonna freak out. I'm not gonna have a panic attack.
And that's sort of like, you know, part of life is sort of like, you know, just figuring out how to deal with like different weird input that you get in your head. And if you you know, it's easy to think that, oh, you're just sort of like dulling everything down, but it doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like you're doping yourself up or anything like that. It just feels like nothing really matters that much.
Right. Yeah.
And like and then when you sort of look back on it later, you're like, oh, you know what? Like that's not necessarily the way I want to live my life. Is just sort of in this like, you know, mildly pleased stupor. You know, where you're just kind of like, yeah, I mean, this is all right. Like,
I would say maybe smoke a little pot.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
but I know like you're ramping that down as well.
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, for possible testing purposes or whatever. But like, yeah, and it's something that I would have 6 months ago. I probably would have like been singing the praises of it and been like, it's really great. Like it's totally totally made my life manageable and fine where it wasn't before. And but now I would say, like, looking back on it, it's like it definitely does, like and I think maybe sorry if I'm all over the place here, but like, hey, I'm coming off the meds, so, but like
Andrew's crazy.
oh my god. But yeah, you do sort of you fail to appreciate exactly how strong it is, or like what it's doing, because it's sort of made to make you think that nothing's strong or bad one
really
way or the
subtle.
other, bad or good. And so yeah, you don't really necessarily notice if you're taking too much, because the whole point of the drug is to make you happy with whatever's going on.
That's the insidious thing about those drugs, is that like if you're taking heroin and then you decide I'm not going to do heroin anymore, at least you got some bang for your buck.
Right.
You're like, oh yeah, I was doing heroin, and I know that it's you can't like casually forget that you're on heroin.
Right.
But if you're taking Xanax, it's like you can totally forget that you took something, because everything, it just kind of normalizes everything.
Right.
So like, where's the fun in that?
Well, and here's my advice to psychiatrists too, is that if you're a psychiatrist that prescribes lots and lots of antidepressants, make sure that your voicemail is always empty, because like nothing's going to trigger a panic attack quicker in somebody than when they try to call to like to refill their prescription, which in the back of your head, if you stop taking cold turkey, will make you go off the cliff. And then you try to like get your prescription refilled, and it's like, this voicemail box is full. Click. It's like, oh well, fuck that. It's
That's
like, now I'm gonna have to go fucking all drugstore cowboy, like steal.
That's
steal,
Andrew's advice
pharmacy.
to doctors who prescribe medicine. My advice to doctors are, don't dress up in your dead mother's dress on the day that she died. That's it.
If you can find a happy medium between those two extremes, then I think you'll be all right.
I think you'll be all right. All right, let's take a break.
Let's do that.
This is SFBarkast, and we are at Pittsburgh's Pub in the Outer Sunset.
Go, go! Go, go, go! I want to drink more beer until I... Yeah! DJ Punk, I'm so cool. I can drink so much. I can drink more than you. DJ Punk, DJ Punk, DJ Punk, DJ Punk. Met a girl at the bar. Oh, she's a 10 out of 2. I gave her 4 stars. Oh,
All right, this is SFBarkast, and we are back
Woohoo!
at Pittsburgh's.
Pittsburghs.
You know what? They have 2 pool tables here.
We do. It's
kind of
not a huge bar, but
yeah.
like they really showcase the pool table, and then they've got 2 kind of well placed pinball machines too that aren't totally in the way.
They've got Attack from Mars,
From
and
Mars.
they have Fishtails, which
Fishtails.
Fishtails is an
Old
okay
classic.
game.
Yeah. Seems like you used to see fishtails everywhere, but like you don't see it as much there anymore. You're more of the pinball expert than me.
I am more of a pinball expert. Speaking of being a pinball expert, at Gestalt, they recently got in the Walking Dead
Ooh.
pinball machine, and it's always only like 1 or 2 new pinball machines come out a year, and usually they suck. So when it's something cool like Walking Dead, it's like a big moment. So they had like a introduction party there last Saturday, and it was just like packed with like pinball heads like myself.
Oh wow. But it was it's a good decent game.
Yeah, it's a decent game.
Cool.
Being into pinball is like a great sort of like support group. It's like basically telling everybody in the world, I don't have a girlfriend.
It's like I can't afford a video game system at home.
But I guess like the pinball resurgence is on the upswing right now.
Right.
So everybody's like getting into pinball.
I like pinball because it's a game that you can play exclusively in a bar. So
That's true.
like no one's gonna put up with you setting up your Xbox in the corner of a bar and
Pinball also for me.
playing Halo.
Legends of whatever.
Legends of bullshit or whatever stupid video games there are currently.
Also, pinball is kind of like very nostalgic for me because I believe it was the last time my father ever tried to be cool around me and my brother. Because of course, like we grew up in the '80s, and we were playing like video games,
Right.
and so my dad would come down to the arcade and be like, "You fucking kids don't know what you're talking about, like." Pinball's where it's at. Let me show you how to play
You're
pinball.
like, could you please not swear around all the children, sir?
Why do you have an open Budweiser?
Shut your fucking hole, you 10-year-olds. Gather around.
They got to learn sometime. So he tried to get my brother and I into pinball, and we're just like
Big success.
It's like it's so hard. Like you got to think like it was probably like 1981. Like war games had just come out. Everybody's playing video games. We all have Pac-Man fever. And my dad's like trying to get us into pinball, and we're like, no offense, old man, but like I just played Defender and I fucking saved a whole fucking planet. I'm not chasing around your little silver ball.
No, I don't want to hit the silver ball into Fonzie's mouth or whatever the fuck you're doing, Dad.
Something about that just seems really old. So, but now I've come full circle, and although if I think I ever brought it up to my dad, hey, guess what, Dad? I'm into pinball now. And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon.
You'd be like, I knew you'd come around, you spineless piece of shit. The only thing I ever respected about you was that you stood your ground on pinball.
I knew he'd come around.
I was just testing you. Pinball's always been terrible.
Pinball's for assholes.
If you'd said you liked it, I would have killed you on the spot. Well, like, yeah.
So what?
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
So are you ready for the Ebola outbreak?
Oh, Jesus. Like, that's, yeah. I was
Why
going to
is
say,
Ebola
like,
getting so much play?
it's, I mean, you know, like, it's terrifying, and, like, you know, the news loves terrifying. So,
Yeah, it's
you
true.
know, they're running with every single story. And, like, you know, when we walk in, they're talking about, like, you know, the latest doctor to come back from, you know, West Africa and have it. And for some weird reason, like, everybody that comes back, like, it's like the first thing they do is like go on a doorknob licking like binge in New York City and ride the bus for like overnight.
That is like one thing I will agree with. Like, you know, people are kind of. I'm not ready to freak out about Ebola,
Yeah.
but the fact that like the nurse who like treated an Ebola,
Gets on a cruise ship or whatever.
she, like,
You know those buckets of disease that everyone's talking about, where it's like one person gets like Hep C and the whole fucking cruise has it. I think I'll go get on one of those.
yeah, it's like she was treating Ebola patient in Dallas, and then decided she'd go to Cleveland, like for the fuck of it. You know?
Yeah, it's because it's Cleveland. Even if I give them Ebola, like, they're never going to notice.
An Ebola outbreak could break out in Cleveland, and
It's like,
people
oh.
would be like, "Oh no, this is."
Oh, God forbid, we're all going to bleed out of our eyes. It's like, we were going to do that anyway.
So yeah, people are freaking out about Ebola. They found another patient in New York City, so now, what is it, Governor or Mayor Blasio had to like have a press conference.
Well, New York City,
Blaseo.
like, there's, luckily there's no people in close contact with each other in New York City, so that should be easily taken care of.
Whatever. And if anyone's like thinking about their Halloween costume being an Ebola hazmat suit, I'm here
Yeah.
to tell you that is a stupid idea.
Well, and as somebody pointed out, like online or somewhere, they said if you're thinking of recycling your Walter White hazmat suit from last year as an Ebola hazmat, you are the worst person alive.
I feel like I'm dropping the ball. I'm dropping the ball on a lot of things right now in my life.
Yeah.
But I'm dropping the ball on Halloween because it's like a week away, and I still don't know what I'm going to go as. And I've got like one idea, but it's a stupid idea. I was thinking about going as Bradley Cooper from Silver Linings Playbook because he's got like sweatpants on and he's got like, a garbage bag around
Very
him.
topical too. Like, you're like,
I know, it was like
all
2
right,
years
year and a
ago.
half.
I had that idea like when that movie came out. I was like, that'd be a great Halloween costume. So if anyone knows of a better Halloween costume,
See, I think that it's a good opportunity though, because I think that some of the best Halloween costumes are ones that had to be last minute. Like if you can get something that's topical.
Also, some of the worst.
Well, right, yeah, but I mean, if you can get something that's topical and cool, like like that happened in like the 3 or 4 days leading up to Halloween, like you're golden. Whereas if like you're dressing up as Carly Rae Jepsen, then you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah, that's true. I remember like there was one year that I really wanted to go as Andy Kaufman from his like wrestling days.
Oh yeah.
So
easy costume too. Just
it's an easy
long
costume,
johns
and I had
shorts.
I had boxing gloves,
Nice.
and like I had the long johns and the blue
shape a bald spot into your head.
had it all, and like I was like super proud of it. And then like I went to, this is when you can go down to the Castro, and I went down to the Castro and fucking nobody got my costume. Nobody. Like sometimes some years I'll have a costume where only 1 or 2 people get it, but the people who get it are really, really, they're like, wow, that's great, it's so specific.
You're
it's
my
awesome.
hero.
Yeah.
Right.
That year nobody got the costume, and I was disappointed in me and in the world for not like appreciating my genius.
See, I think that like 1 year we went as Bob and Doug McKenzie, and I thought we did a decent job. Like it wasn't like we weren't like completely nailed it spot on, but like I felt like enough people got it to make it worthwhile. But then again, a lot of people were just like, "Oh, are you guys just cold?" It's like you guys are wearing jackets.
One person got it. Like I think it was Mike Billington.
I'm probably remembering it way too fondly, and like we just walked around with people going, "What's wrong with those guys? Why aren't they wearing costumes?"
Well, that's one of the things. Like if people have to ask if you're wearing a costume, like, some of my favorite costumes of years gone by, I went as David Byrne from Stop Making Sense in the big suit.
It's a great one.
Which is a great one.
Right.
And 1 year for the Critical Mass bike ride, we got a tandem bike, and I dressed as a Orthodox Jew, and my friend Doug dressed as a Arab.
Right.
So I know there's a lot of like backlash about like there's this campaigns that against Halloween costumes that are culturally based.
Oh, okay.
And it says like it's a culture, not a costume.
Right.
So like if you're like, look at me, I'm a fucking drunk Mexican with a big sombrero and some tequila, yeah, that's kind of offensive. And like dressing as an Arab or a Jew would also be offensive. But in my defense, we were on a tandem bike, and it was a statement about working together.
Exactly. Like,
and everybody loved it.
How could they not? Like,
there's also a
politically correct city like this that you could have them convicted of a hate crime for not liking your costume.
It was also a nod to that video, Rock the Casbah.
True. See, I think a good costume maybe for this year would be like Bill Cosby rapist.
Good God, Hannibal Buress.
I know, what the hell was that? That's great though. It's like one of my favorite stories. It's like
wow.
It's about time somebody took Bill Cosby down a peg.
And like wow, if people don't know, Hannibal Buress is this black comic out of New York who was doing a routine about how 13 women have accused Bill Cosby of rape, and he settled out of court with them. And
yet is still like the most patronizing
beloved
comic that's ever lived, where he's like...
Well, what Hannibal was saying is that like he hates... One of the things he hates about Bill Cosby is that he has that sort of like old black man bootstraps sort of like attitude towards younger black comics. And he was like, I had a successful show in the 80s. Don't tell me. You can't criticize me. And he's just like, yeah, I can. You're a rapist. It's like, yeah, so you had the #1 show in the 80s, and you raped women.
I don't mean to laugh that much of the word rape, but it is actually pretty funny.
And Hannibal said, like, if you don't believe me, just go to Google and put in Bill Cosby rape, and he's like, you'll get more entries than for Hannibal Buress.
That's something he needs to work on then.
Exactly.
Like perhaps he should try rape.
If it worked for Cosby.
Exactly. Well, numbers don't lie.
And I guess, and it was like really like shady stuff too. Like Cosby was like drugging women and then fucking them. I mean, I'm not trying to like rationally argue the merits of a crime,
right?
But wouldn't that suck? Like, okay,
yeah, it
like
seems
you're a superstar,
right?
Like, can't you just charm a girl into wanting to have sex with you instead of like What? I'm not putting in the effort to like make her like me.
What do you mean? You're not gonna have sex with me? I'm get me my ether rag.
I got get my Joe pudding pop on. So whatever. I mean, like, yeah, like if you're.
If only either one of us could do a halfway decent Bill Cosby, we could spend the next 20 minutes doing Bill Cosby like raping women material.
They should have had Bill Cosby should have played the coach of Notre Dame in the movie Rudy. So you'd be like, Rudy,
Rudy.
So no more Ebola.
No more Ebola. Well, no, plenty more probably, but we'll see how that all plays out.
I want to bitch about something. No, you know what? Let's take a break.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's take a break, and we'll come back, and then I'll have my little bitch session, and then...
yeah, maybe we can tell some any other stories you remember from the glory days of the Reef. Or stains that might still be on the floor here, because certainly some of them are more than 30 years old at this point.
The only true thing Billy Joel ever sang was the good old days weren't always good. So when you think about, like, the Reef, the good old days of the Reef, they were the shit old days.
That and that the microphone smelled like a beer.
And honesty is such a lonely word. Fuck that guy.
Fuck that guy. Speaking of getting drunk and plowing into trees on Long Island.
All right, this is SFBarkast, and we are at not the Reef, Pittsburghs, the former Reef. All right, and we are back. This is SFBarkast. Still 100% Ebola free.
At Pittsburghs.
At Pittsburghs.
Which I don't even know what, like, I remember on the Nick Kroll show, what's his name, John Daly, like, supposedly doing, like, this. I mean, I think he's from Pittsburgh and, like, doing, like, just this knock back, like, a Pittsburgh accent. But I could never even replicate it. Like,
it's a weird accent. I think, like, Kathy Bates in the new American Horror Story is doing this Pittsburgh accent.
Okay.
And a lot of people have no idea what she's doing. I'm pretty
sure.
Like,
did she have a stroke?
Yeah.
No, she's dead on Allegheny River.
Why is she talking about Mario Lemieux? Pittsburgh, like, Pennsylvania is a really weird state because,
tell me that.
Well, Philadelphia is very much an East Coast city.
Yeah.
And the second biggest city, Pittsburgh, is very much a Midwest city.
Mm.
And so, like, they're just
And then the whole middle of the state is just a fucking train wreck of rednecks.
It's a fucking Amish buggy wreck.
Shout out to Johnstown, Pennsylvania, by the way. I had to go to a wedding there, and it was in it was in sort of an empty field in the middle of, like, Johnstown, Pennsylvania. And
how did you know which empty field it was in?
Yeah, it was the one with the kegs of beer set up in it.
Still, I'm going to need a little bit more information.
I'm sorry, the one with the people that can afford kegs of beers in it.
So here's my story of, like, the last week. I went to the Right Spot, which is one of my favorite bars, which we still have to go to.
Which you host trivia there once a month still?
Yes, I'm going to do it on November 5th.
November 5th?
At the Right Spot.
Go check it out.
So check it out, definitely. It's going to be the best trivia night. Make sure you have a big meal because you're going to shit your pants how great it is.
Wear shoes you don't like because it's going to blow your socks off your feet through your shoes.
So I was there on Friday night, and, like, a little backstory to this story. Like, a month ago, a friend of the show, Kevin Montgomery, looked at my bike, and he said, "Oh, you still have quick releases on your wheels."
Right.
And if people don't know, quick releases are this really dumb idea that came around, like, 15 years ago, where everybody was like, "Oh my God, like, you can take your wheel off really fast without, like, using a wrench or anything like that."
If you're running the Tour de France.
Right. Yeah. Which is great if you are, like, riding in the Tour de France.
Yeah. It'd be like having a car with, like, those, like, sort of, like, zip, zip nuts on it where you could, like, change a tire in 3 seconds if you needed to.
Oh, you're going to say truck nuts. Whatever.
Zip nuts.
So one of the things that they don't tell you about 15 years ago, they didn't tell you about quick release, is that they do tell you, hey, you can take your wheel off really fast if you need to. But what they didn't tell you is that other people can take your wheel off very fast if they want to. So
if they wanted to, they could replace your wheel really fast, but most of the time they don't.
Yeah, most of the time people who are stealing your wheel don't replace it with another wheel.
Replace it with a slightly worse wheel.
So, like an idiot, well, Kevin said to me, you still have quick releases on your bike. And I was like, yeah, but I have a beater bike, which is great, which means that it's a kind of a bike that nobody wants to steal.
Just admit it. Your exact words were probably, "Why don't you fucking mind your own business, man?"
Why don't you pipe down?
Hey, is this your bike? Well, then what the fuck are you talking about it for?
Excuse me. May I be in charge of my bike for a while?
You should have approached him immediately when you realized that they got stolen. Been like, "Hey, you seem to know a lot about taking wheels off of my bike."
So quick release wheels have gone out of style because people were stealing too many wheels. But I thought I was basically grandfathered in because I had like a bike that nobody wanted to steal. And last Friday, someone stole my back wheel. And I swear, like, you know me, I'm generally, for all the complaining I do, I am generally a very peaceful person. But when somebody steals something from you, you want to kill someone.
Oh yeah.
And it's not something. I have like a little fit. I yell a little bit, and then I go, "Okay, I'm over that. All right, it happened. Forget about it." It's not like that. It's like those emotions have to go through you entirely until you are over it. Like you can't just be like, "All right, I kicked the ottoman upside down, and now I'm over it."
Gone through a few adopted pets.
So I had as people know, one of the things I love most in the world is riding my bike, and now I've had my back wheel stolen. So I guess I got to fix that. And also, I was sick a little while ago with sort of like a head cold, and now I'm kind of sick with like a stomach flu. So between figuring out what I'm going to do with my former bicycle, now unicycle, I'm just trying not to shit my pants 24 hours a day.
Well, if you were like if you were really cool like Seppi Mays or something like that, you could like he could probably ride on the front wheel exclusively, right? And
Who?
Just, our friend Seppi, who's like a former BMX trick champion or whatever like that. Like he could probably just just treat it exactly like a unicycle that happened to have a extra bit of frame on it.
I'm willing to bet that even if I was a BMX trick champion and I saw that someone had stole my back wheel, I wouldn't be like, "Oh, that's fine. I can just like ride a wheelie, a backwards wheelie all the way."
Oh, they stole everything but the handlebars. I can just attach those to my chest and walk around with them.
All right, so let's talk about a little bit of San Francisco stuff first. Okay, so we have an election coming up soon.
An
and
election?
I just want to say,
those are for losers.
I know. Is that one of those things where they close the bars? Sorry, Barney. So I wasn't really prepared for this, but I do want to talk about the beverage tax because I feel like the beverage tax is something in San Francisco that
People
has
getting
so much
riled
money
up about.
against. Like basically, I've read the proposal, and the proposal says that you're going to put it's basically a sin tax on like heavily sugared soft drinks. So like like sodas.
Right.
And energy like Monster drinks and shit like that, So they're gonna put like a tax on it, and people are losing their fucking mind like over it. And I feel like there's a lot of misinformation because in the proposal they don't say anything about raising like prices for everything else.
Right.
But like every single day I get like these big pamphlets that say your grocery bill is all going to go up because there's some independent commission.
Because they assume that you buy like 50 2-liter bottles of Coke every week or something?
No, because I guess like some independent commission said that one possibility is that the grocery stores will, offset the price increase by raising the prices on everything else. But they didn't say they would.
Yeah,
and
you know what? That's their decision to make as a business. And if it winds up costing a lot of money to the point where people won't spend money at grocery stores, then they'll change it back because they're a fucking business.
Right. And also, if your grocery store like bumps up all their prices on everything
they're
by
assholes.
like 5 cents, then don't go there. They're assholes.
Right.
And they also there's like this fear campaign about like they don't say anything about alcoholic drinks, and this is the one that really hits home. But like there's like these pamphlets that I'm getting in the mail saying like, oh yeah, a 6-pack of beer is going to cost you like $18. I'm just like, how is that? Like first off, it doesn't say anything about alcohol being
right.
Like
There's
taxed.
like just all these assumptions that like, well, the grocery store will raise their prices 50% for no reason.
But also the amount of money that is behind this, and I'm amazed because a lot of my friends are like, oh, very much anti like beverage tax. It's like, what the hell? Like, basically, you're standing up for like Coca-Cola Like
Right.
all the money from like Coca-Cola. It's like I understand like if you own a bar and you have to go through a lot of like soda, it's probably going to cost you a little bit more.
Like I don't.
What's the fucking markup at a bar?
Right. Oh my God. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Well, and like just the idea that I mean, I'm not like a huge soda guy, so I'm not I don't have like a huge horse in the race or whatever. But at the same time, like I don't know if you've seen that like documentary that came out called like Fed Up or whatever. That like it is.
No.
It's I mean it's sort of all about how ridiculously bad for you like sodas and stuff like that are. And yeah, I mean I'm not. I would never want them to be like outlawed altogether. I mean like a nice refreshing like sugary drink is kind of nice at times. But at the same time, it's just like like they're showing more and more that there's these like massive collateral costs if you're the kind of person that like just chugs Coke like it's going out of style. Your insides are just a fucking time bomb waiting to like explode all over like the emergency room and cost everybody money to like rebuild your entire like insides.
Yeah, believe me, if you're a computer programmer, you can do a lot of coding when you're drinking Mountain Dew Red, but it's because it's filled with sugar and it's filled with caffeine.
Well, and nobody would ever say like, okay, like you can tax the Mountain Dew Red, but only if you make like meth legal. It's like nobody would be like, yeah, that's a good idea. Like,
Well, and also like the anti-beverage tax campaign. Like, there's so many angles. There's that angle, that fear angle, where it's like your six packs are going to be more expensive. Your grocery bill is going to get bigger. And then the other one is we don't need government telling us how to raise our kids because it's basically aimed at like fat kids. Like they didn't like.
Well, and you wind up with like what's her name, Sarah Palin on TV shaking a big gulp, going, "Hey, like I'm the funniest person in the world because I got a big giant big gulp and I'm put it right in you liberals' faces."
I mean, on one hand, I do understand that like it is kind of ridiculous that like we have to legislate or at least make it like less enticing to like give our kids poison, but you're giving your kids poison. Like if we, like I said before, they don't put laws on the books that you can't have sex with animals in a vacuum.
Right.
Somebody had sex with an animal, and then they had to like legislate you not to do that.
Well, and the fucked up thing, especially with drinks that are like fortified with like tons of corn syrup and stuff like that, is that the system is already like way far on the reverse, where basically like we pay farmers to like make corn.
Yeah.
Like and that's all tax subsidized money that we're giving them money to like create poison so that it's much cheaper to give your kid a Coke than it is to buy a bottle of water.
Right.
And that's just a fact. I mean like you can price out a fucking RC cola versus a halfway decent bottle of water and they're twice as expensive. And so it's ridiculous that now it's this big freedom issue where it's like, well, I should have the freedom to like take my government subsidized like sugar water and give it to my kid when it'll probably kill it.
And what sucks is that it emboldens these idiots. Like, okay, like people are saying like, we don't need the government telling us how to raise our kids. Well, it's like if you weren't giving your kid soda in the first place, then none of this affects you, right?
Right.
So like, no, they're not trying to like tell you what to give your kid. Like they're just saying, like maybe kids should not have like these.
I'm saying like. You still have like 100% freedom to poison your kid any way you want. It just might cost you a little bit more to do that.
Yeah, you can totally go Munchausen on him and like poison him in many different ways. But
I mean, it's like you can go out and buy enough bug spray to kill your kid, but like it'll probably cost a little bit more than a glass of water would.
If anybody wants to know how to kill their kids, you can just write us and we'll let you know the better ways to kill your fucking kids.
It's like all right. But our anti-campaign against this is to poison children in every other way possible.
One of the things that like bothers me is that it emboldens people who are like anti-government, like Sarah Palin, who are like suddenly they look like total rebels because they're like, yeah, I'm gonna drink a fucking like 60-ounce big gulp in the middle of Times Square. Take that, Bloomberg.
Right.
And in the same way, like there's this like real bullshit law that they put on the books in San Francisco against nudity.
Okay.
And there's a bunch of like guys who, for whatever reason, they want to go nude, right?
Okay. Yeah, I've been to Gay Pride. I've seen some of these guys.
These guys they ride critical mass. They're always sitting there at like Market and Castro, You know, just like, and it's usually like older guys that
you
you
bought a
never
cock,
want to see.
You bought a cock ring, you want people to see it. You know, you don't buy a cock ring to put pants over it.
I think if you wore a cock ring, that would be considered clothes.
It could be. Well, if it was like a glass or plastic one that you could barely see.
Clearly, Andrew, you do not know what you're talking about when it comes to the nudist community.
R.E. cock rings. You are mistaken.
Ooh, cock ring. Ooh, that you might as well eat cheese and run in front of a vegan. So, what sucks is that like now because of these like dumb rules, like people who want to like thumb their nose at government. Like the two most rebellious things you can do in San Francisco is drink a soda while you have all your clothes off. Like like San Francisco used to be the home of like this rebellious, anti-establishment like personality.
Right.
And now, like, the most rebellious people are like guys sitting at, like, Market and Castro with their dicks hanging out.
Good times.
Yeah, good times.
What do you think? Do you want to take a break and then come back and talk about, like, we still got to talk about, like,
Yeah,
a little bit about the Giants, maybe do a bad Yelp review or two?
I think, like, yelling about, like, guys having their dicks out, that's kind of a walk-off. I should have just, like, said. You should have said, like, and we'll be right back.
And we're out of here.
All right, this is SFBarkast, and we are at Pittsburghs in the outer sunset. All right, and we are back at Pittsburghs.
Pittsburgh's Pub.
Pittsburgh's Pub,
Was it just the Pittsburgh's Bar? I don't know
It's
what the hell
Pittsburgh's
called.
Pub.
Pittsburgh's Pub.
It rolls off your drunken tongue.
Right off of 58 Jack Lambert Drive.
At
Or 46th and
46th and Judah. So this is the longest we probably waited to talk about sports.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Like we really we did this as a favor to all
So-
of our listeners that do nothing but complain about sports. And
So good night, Drew Harmon.
Yes. You tune out now.
So the Giants are in the World Series.
They are.
The first game, first off, I want to say that I was amazed that Vegas and most of the experts on ESPN had installed Kansas City as the favorite.
Really? I had no idea.
Kansas City is like the emotional favorite, but because they're overachieving, they haven't been there in almost 30 years. But for me, like looking at the two teams, it's like Kansas City has a better bullpen than San Francisco, and aside from that, San Francisco does everything else better. They got better pitching, better starting pitching. They've got better hitting, and Kansas City's just been overachieving.
Yeah, like
So-
Kansas City might be faster, as
Yes.
a base stealing team, but
Right.
I think that maybe it was you online somewhere said that they reminded you kind of Colorado.
Yeah,
a
the
few years ago.
2007 Colorado Rockies.
Because they were
where it's
undefeated going into the World Series, weren't
Yeah.
they? And everyone was just they're gonna fucking lay waste.
So I said that to somebody, and somebody said, well, the thing about the 2007 World Series where the Red Sox swept the Colorado Rockies is that the Red Sox were that so much better than the Rockies.
Yeah.
And the Rockies were just overachieving. But I kind of felt like that's what was going into this series. Yeah. And in game one, the Giants just murdered them.
Right.
And I was just looking around. I was like, you know what? This is going to be easy. I'd be surprised if Kansas City wins another game.
Well, it's easy to forget that Kansas City really had to scrap to win the play-in game. So they could have been out a long time ago.
They were down by 4 runs in the 6th inning.
Right.
So and more power to them. They did really well.
Yeah.
Broke all of the Oakland A's hearts.
Hey, good for you, George Brett, and the rest of your pine tar loving white fan assholes.
So I was basically mouthing off about how everybody was wrong, that Kansas City was going to be the favorite.
Right.
Because the Giants won the first game, and in the second game, the Giants got their ass kicked.
Yeah.
They basically got their ass kicked in 1 inning.
Yeah.
In the 6th inning of last night's game, the Kansas City scored 5 runs.
Well, it's because,
it was just
as somebody
brutal.
pointed out, the Giants broke the cardinal rule of having more than one Hunter on your team. And as soon as you brought in Hunter, what's his face?
Hunter Strickland,
because they've already got Hunter Pence, and so they broke the rule and they had to pay the price.
If only Hunter S. Thompson was still alive to see this team.
Because he would be a fantastic baseball player. Up there,
he would
waving a gun around.
He would be totally underwhelmed by having 2 Hunters on one team. Hunter Strickland, by the way, like he had a pretty good like postseason so far, but man, he serve it up in last night's game.
Right.
And
Sort of
he's also like,
too,
but he's like a super bro. Like he's like this guy. Just like he's one of the type of baseball players I always hate because he'll give up a home run and then get mad that somebody isn't running the bases fast enough.
Right.
Something like that. It's like, dude, you gave up the home run. You're pitching batting practice.
Right.
Like, if you don't want them to trot slowly around the bases, stop them.
Right. Well, I think that after like his sort of like mini meltdown, like in the last game, like his immediate response was like, oh, I was just mad at myself. It's like, well, then fucking be mad at yourself. Don't throw shit at the other team and like
Here's the thing.
be a dickhead about it.
If you're that mad at yourself, and like you let it like carry over. I mean, I understand if you're a big league closer, you are cut from a different cloth.
Right.
Like you have to be sort of intense to get those last three important outs.
Yeah.
But to me, honestly, it just like reeks of steroid, like roid rage.
Yeah.
Like remember when like Roger Clemens threw the bat back at Mike Piazza.
Oh yeah, Piazza. Mike Pizza.
And it's just like, and then like 5 years later, people are like, oh yeah, Roger Clemens was on steroids, and he was. Everybody looks back and goes like, yeah, of course he was.
Right.
What kind of fucking lunatic like picks up a splintered bat and throws it back at the runner?
The guy was like 40 years old, like staying in shape by like punching barrels of rice or whatever.
Well, that's just him being a redneck Texan, you know.
He's like, it's either this or beat my wife.
Just flew in from Dallas, and boy, are my arms tired. I had to beat my wife the whole way. That is a Kevin O'Shea joke.
Wow, thanks, Kevin O'Shea.
So the Giants, I'm a little bit lamenting that I was mouthing off about how the Giants were like so much better than the Kansas City because they lost the last game. But we have the next 3 games at home, so let's just take care of business, Giants, and get this fucking thing done.
Or is
Otherwise, do you really want to see Paul Rudd and David Koechner like celebrating at their parents' house in Kansas City?
Eric Stone Street. I'm trying to think of it. Like, there's only like 3 or 4 like Kansas City celebrities, I think.
There's a lot of like comedy guys from Kansas
really?
City for some bizarre reason. I forget the rest of them.
Must
Definitely
be
not the Sklar brothers.
Something funny in that barbecue.
All right, so is it time?
Certainly nothing non-white about their crowds, that's for sure.
Is it time to bust a rhyme?
No.
It's time for the mother joke of the day. No, it is time for bad Yelp reviews.
Yelp.
I need somebody,
Yelp.
not just anybody.
Yelp.
You know I need someone.
Yelp.
Boing. It is indeed time for bad Yelp reviews. And what do you say? Like, here we are at Pittsburgh's pub, Outer Sunset. You're going to get, I'm just going to, before even looking at these, I'm going to predict that people are going to be unimpressed with the artisan selection of cocktails and reclaimed wood that they were hoping to see.
Yes, I mean, that's a joke, but like I am going to predict that they're going to be complained that it is a little too dingy, a little too divey. And I bet some of the bad reviews would be like, I like dive bars, but not dive bars.
Like not
well,
actual
then,
dive
if you
bars.
don't like Pittsburghs, then you don't like dive bars. You can't say I like dive bars and I don't like this dive bar.
It's like, I like Paris, France, but I like Epcot, Paris, France a lot more than Paris.
The real Paris is a little too French for me.
Right. They're all speaking a foreign, wacky moon language over there.
It's like they've got a different word for everything.
Like, they got some kind of soda tax as well, which I don't approve of. But okay, so here's number 1.
Bad Yelp review number 1
comes to us from Ryan S.
Sounds like an asshole.
An S-hole, is that what you said?
Asshole. Yeah.
I get it. All right. And Ryan says, there are dive bars that aren't filled with creeps in the city. It's debatable. Choose one of those instead. Watching Christopher the bartender act aggressively inappropriate towards the women here summed up this place perfectly. Watch your drinks, ladies. 1 star.
Who is Bill Cosby bartending here?
Apparently so. I mean, there can't be more than 1 or 2 bartenders here, and they both seem like sweet old drunks to me. Like, but the clientele here is grade A dive as far as I'm concerned, especially like for a California oceanfront setting. Like, I've probably been to 40 or 50 bars within a block of the ocean before, and they all seem to attract the exact same type of sort of sun-blotched kind of like semi-confused person, and this is no exception.
Well, the bartender that we have today has been nothing but super sweet to us. And yes, he looks like a drunk Sam Waterston, which is to say Sam Waterston.
Indeed.
But he's been super sweet. And also, one of the great things about this bar is, in reading Yelp reviews about this bar, is like I bet the people who leave bad Yelp reviews are like, we'll show them. We'll leave a bad Yelp review. Right. Not a person in here has the internet.
Yeah, exactly. Not even that they don't read Yelp. They don't even have
right.
If you want to send your bad review to their pager,
right? Exactly.
Maybe they'll get it.
Maybe if you want to type up your bad review and mail it to them.
Maybe
they'll get it. Like people writing bad Yelp reviews of Pittsburghs are just gonna be like you might as well throw a fucking message in a bottle and throw it into the Indian Ocean.
It's literally farting into the ocean wind.
It's right. Your Yelp review is a fart in a hurricane. Okay, so so here's my bad Yelp review.
All right.
Comes to us. Courtesy of Jennifer A.
Jennifer
asshole.
if you're going to leave just your last initial, make sure it's not A, so that we don't immediately call you an asshole.
Right, exactly. There's nothing funny about that. All right, so one star. The older lady bartending Friday night tonight is very rude. Firstly, got my beer order wrong. Secondly, witnessed her complete overreaction to service dogs. They had their documents. Will never come here again.
Oh, boy.
Okay, so here's my speech about service dogs. Is if you're blind, no one is going to give you shit about your service dog, okay?
Yeah, straight.
But if your service dog, if you, paid the extra money to get, a service dog license,
right,
because it is for a price, because you wanted to bring your dog wherever you want, and, on the license it says that, if your fucking Cocker Spaniel isn't there with you, you'll have a panic attack.
Right.
Then
detoxing off of Lexapro and you need a dog around.
Right, exactly. I mean, how is some little pocketbook dog a service dog? I mean, I don't know. Maybe she had a regular, but all I know.
That's the thing is that I noticed about and far be it from us to disparage Jennifer Essel and call her service dog possibly illegitimate. But if you've ever seen a real service dog, you barely even notice them because they're the most well-behaved, right next to their owner, never bark or even look at another person kind of dog there is. And so if someone's complaining about your service dog, it's probably because it's not a service dog, because it's yapping at everybody and being the little chihuahua it is.
And this sucks about service dogs, but service dog licenses have become as fucking ridiculous as handicap parking passes.
Right.
I've seen people who are day laborers with handicap parking passes. Okay, and you're just
right.
What?
Well, it's sort of the textbook example of a group of shitty people ruining it for everybody else. Because I 99 times out of 100, if I see somebody pull into a handicap spot with a handicap placard, my immediate thought is you fucking liar.
I'm surprised that
if they ever are actually handicapped. I feel kind of terrible about it. I'm I guess he deserves it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, really, this isn't my fight. It's the fight of the handicapped people who they should be up in arms or wheels about it.
I was gonna say, unless they have one arm, they should be up in arm.
But yeah, I happen to know people who have dogs, and the people have told them, look, all you have to do is go and apply for some phony baloney service dog license, and then you get it. And you know what? Yes, if it's a real service dog, it'll have the dog himself will have a little sign that says, "Please don't pet me. I'm at work," something like that. So if you bring 2 dogs in here, that don't have that. They look like they're just regular dogs, and the bartender's like, hey, you got to get the fuck out of here with those dogs. And she's like, well, you didn't even ask me for my papers. It's like, because they're not service dogs. Because they're fucking jumping up on the pool table and taking a piss on the fucking 8-ball.
Oh, he has to do that. If he doesn't do that, I could go blinder.
So there we go. Sorry, Jennifer A.
If your handicap is legitimate, Jennifer A., we apologize, but it's only because assholes have ruined it for people like you.
I will totally retract everything I say if Jennifer A. gets in touch with us and meets up and shows me like her nub. If not, I'm like, I'm sorry, you'll get no service dog for you, Jennifer.
Let's see these Pistorius blade legs of yours. And don't try to murder me, because I know that's what you blade people do.
So, hey, do you want to do say something positive?
We can do. I guess we could say something positive. I'm not really prepared.
I really don't have much because I've been sick and having shit stolen from myself all week. Why don't you go first? Why don't you say something positive?
Let's see. What's good? What's good about this fucking life? It's always nice to get out close to the ocean. Ocean breeze is nice.
The ocean is nice. It's breezy. I like the weather here. Some people, we had like a kind of a heat wave a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people are like, oh, I love the heat. I'm like, I fucking hate it. Like, especially like if you're. Let me tell you. Here's something positive that is built on something that's negative.
Okay.
If you have a hangover,
It's a tricky one.
If you have a hangover,
right,
and you're in the heat, it is fucking horrible. But if you have a hangover and you live in San Francisco and you open up the windows and you get that cool like fog, like breeze coming through, you feel so much better. Yeah. So enjoy the chilled, and it's not cold. People are like, oh, it's too cold in San Francisco. It's like, go to fucking Minnesota.
That's garbage.
Go to fucking Maine. Tell those people it was cold because you had to fucking put on a sweater.
Well, here's something good too. I saw. I think it might premiere. It might either premiere tomorrow or sometime this weekend on Adult Swim. But I got a chance to watch the first episode of the Mike Tyson Mysteries.
Yeah, that looks great.
It's everything I hoped it could be and more.
Yeah, I watched part of like that Mike Tyson like one-man show.
How's
and
that?
At some point, it is very entertaining, but I mean, he did it on Broadway in New York,
right?
And like people gave him rave reviews, but I think they were kind of like making fun of him.
That's the only like the only and I think with the animated show, it's a lot clearer that he's in on the joke. You know, like where and he's he's just sort of being a goof. But at the same time, I'm like, and there, it does take sort of like just the right amount of tact. Like you can't just have him walking around going, "Ooga booga, I can't talk." It's like you have to actually like sort of write sort of clever stuff around it.
I mean, I'll give him credit on his like one-man show. Like he knows how to tell a story, but like there are certain points where like you're laughing not because he's telling a good story. You're laughing because he's so still rough around the edges.
Well, yeah, and he's a guy that like was pretty dumb to begin with that got his bell rung about 500 times. So it's like he's not, like he's never going to come out and like be David Sedaris or something like that.
I mean, he's like at one moment he's talking about how ridiculous it was that Robin Givens like was afraid of him.
Right.
And then the next moment he's like, if I ever found her with, at one point he found her with a very young Brad Pitt. And he's like, that guy was so mad, he knows I would have fucking beat his ass into the ground. And it's like, well, okay, so you think like your wife is like absurd for thinking that you would smack her, but like you're jokingly. Also, your job is to beat the shit out of people.
Yeah.
So
it's not.
So you're like, this guy's.
She's not totally, they're not totally out of bounds, thinking that you might resort to violence to solve one of your problems.
Right. Exactly. And like he's just, I mean. In his one-man show, it's basically kind of meta funny, but like that meta is laughing at him.
Yeah.
It's like it wasn't like he made it seem like it was the toast of the town, like getting like rave reviews. It's like getting rave reviews because you're a fucking circus show.
Right.
You should be in a cage.
Like I would probably feel a lot more awkward in a crowd amongst like New York like intellectuals watching Mike Tyson than I am like at home watching a cartoon. And it's like, if I'm in a crowd and we're all we're all sitting there going, ha ha ha, Mike Tyson. Like I'd feel kind of gross. I'd just be like, ugh, like what are we doing? Like,
if you're like sitting behind like some New York intellectuals and like, oh, this reminds me of that interview Susan Sontag did with that criminal. It's like, you're like,
can you believe he's splitting an infinitive there? I'm surprised he doesn't split your head open right now.
I bet even Gore Vidal doesn't find him attractive.
Did everybody hear what I said? Can you shut up? We're trying to watch a play.
Since when did the Kennedy Honors become the Apollo Theater?
Somebody fetch Sandman.
And I guess like my say something positive is, going home for Thanksgiving.
Right. Well, you have a new bike tire in your future, and like
I'm really looking forward to paying $200 to get a new bike tire. But I am looking forward to once again Critical Mass next week and getting my bike fixed so I can go and ride it.
There we go.
One thing I will promote, even though I've had a few beers here, like I've decided I'm going to be a wine drinker.
Okay.
Because like beer like fills me up too much, and like it's you're kind of like, oh, like I kind of like wine, and then I just started drinking it and I felt a whole lot better. So like drinking wine's good, and also like you don't get filled up, you're not as gassy.
Right.
And the only problem with drinking wine is that you get wine mouth.
Oh, it's kind of dry and bad, or like
your whole mouth is like dark red.
I see what you mean.
So like and I'm
So
still
you're drinking exclusively reds.
Yeah. Dude,
okay.
I'm not drinking white. Like I'm quitting beer, not going gay.
I was gonna say like a lot of and especially your white zins and your rosés and stuff like that are like even more sort of like a sugary mess than than any sodas or beers would be anyway. So I mean, red wine's probably the way to go.
Somebody told me that it's just as sort of like, I don't know, fattening or whatever of like beer, but that is absolutely not true. I haven't changed anything. I just started drinking wine instead of beer, and I lost 10 pounds like immediately without exercising, without doing anything. So
That's
it does. Like I said, you get wine mouth, which sucks because it looks like your mouth is like this black hole. You look like you've been like chewing like black Twizzlers all night.
Right, exactly.
But so far it's working. So drink some wine. That's something positive.
I would also like to plug the documentary called Harmontown.
I almost went to go see that.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, I wasn't expecting much of it. I mean, like,
It's like, what is Drew Harmontown like?
That's really depressing, actually.
It's like a lot of complaining about people making noise.
That's right. The whole town just complains about each other making noise. It's Dan Harmon, who the creator of Community and Heat Vision and Jack,
and Rick and Morty.
When he worked on the Sarah Silverman Show.
And Rick and Morty.
And Rick and Morty. I believe he got fired off of all of those shows, except for Rick and Morty. He got fired off all those shows.
But he got asked to go back to Community.
Yeah. But it was an interesting documentary in that you do get a little bit more of an insight into. He's an interesting guy, but like he's also pretty flawed and a pretty hardcore alcoholic, a very functioning alcoholic.
He's got a very good podcast, but like, man, a lot of inside jokes. I mean, we have a lot of inside jokes.
Yeah, but like, he has this guy that he took with him on tour that's essentially like a dungeon master that he picked out of the crowd one day, and like, he's probably the most interesting part of the whole thing because like this guy was just like literally like a dork in his mom's basement and went to this show and said, you know what Dan Harmon needs is a guy to like sit up on stage and roll dice. And like that evening, he said like, "Hey, does anybody here know anything about Dungeons and Dragons?" And like, and that was like the beginning of this sort of like gig for him that lasted like a couple of years.
I feel like
it was interesting shit. Like,
I feel like I'm gonna see this documentary anyway because I like it, but like that is such a bad recommendation. It's like the most interesting guys is Dungeon Master. It's like,
well then,
Jesus Christ.
I'll make sure and throw it right in the trash.
Exactly. But I want to be less bored.
It's like, I'm gonna roll some dice to see how interested I would be in this. Ooh, snake eyes.
You would have a very low charisma score if the most interesting thing is your dungeon master.
Your saving throw has failed.
So yeah, I'll definitely see that.
Yeah, cool. And
So what's your final analysis, Phil Giuano, of Pittsburgh's pub?
I enjoy it. I like the Outer Sunset. I like it. It's a great change of pace. It's
Yeah.
like it's kind of like going to a different part of California within San Francisco.
It's a different type of California.
It is.
It's always cloudy down here, but it's great. Like I said, I love like the cloudy, cold weather.
Yeah.
It's awesome down here. Stay away from the gay cruising sites in the park and the speed freaks hanging out at the 7-Eleven.
There we go.
And aside from
Solid
that,
recommendations.
I think you'll be totally fine. And yeah, I love this place.
Come for the Attack from Mars pinball and stay for the Theater of Magic pinball once it's fixed.
Don't miss the Reef, but I like Pittsburgh's pub.
There we go.
Suck it, Reef.
Pittsburgh pub, maybe even better than the city itself.
Could be.
Suck
Yeah.
it, Pittsburgh.
I like this kind of reminds me of Pittsburgh, but there aren't a bunch of like Carnegie Mellon douches like running around.
Or a bunch of guys in construction helmets trying to eat sandwiches with fries in them.
All right. So this is SF Barkast.
Woo-hoo.
I am Jeff Cleary,
I'm Andrew Loudon.
and we'll see you next time.